Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to introduce Ryan Garza today. Ryan served in the Marines from April 1st, 2008 through November 30th, 2012. He joined in motor transportation, but was immediately trained to sweep for IEDs at his first deployment. He served four tours in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, and on October 3rd, 2011, he was struck by an IED and suffered traumatic brain injuries along with bodily injuries that resulted in having his right leg amputated below the knee. He has an incredible story, and the purpose of today's talk is to, in some way, help break the cycle of veteran suicides. And as we know, the numbers are far too much. Numbers range from 22 and up veterans each day committing suicide, and this is part of Ryan's mission to help have one less loss. So, ladies and gentlemen, with a big whole heart, can we please give a big welcome to Mr. Ryan Garza?
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Ryan, we're going to jump right into this. This talk is based upon your upcoming book, Disturbed Earth, your journey from guilt to forgiveness. And the concept of Disturbed Earth, for folks who are unfamiliar, you were an IED sweeper. And we've seen movies like Hurt Locker and things of that nature. And this is a very dangerous job that you're doing, and you're obviously specially trained at it. I'd like to give people a little bit of insight into the life of an IED sweeper, and maybe you can tell people a little bit about, first of all, what is an IED for folks who aren't familiar with it?
IED is an improvised explosive device. That's usually what they would bury under the ground or hide in doors or walls or anything to take us out of the fight.
Okay, and then Disturbed Earth. Disturbed Earth is a very interesting term that you use, as we've been talking for the past several weeks on this. Can you explain people what Disturbed Earth is?
Disturbed earth is what we would look for, which would normally have an IED underneath. And if you could picture dry soil on a big area with dry soil, and then you dig in a hole and it's got moisturized soil underneath. So once you put the dirt back in the hole, you'll see it's darker in that top area. So you could tell that someone actually had dug in that area. And so when we'd see a discoloration of the ground, right away, that's a sign that there's possibly an IED under there. And that's when we would sweep and check it out.
You're right. Now, this talk is really a 2-hour talk, a 90-minute talk. We're reducing it to almost 20 minutes here. So we're going to skip around a little bit and condense here so folks can get the key concept of the whole story here. But Ryan was a specialist in speed in getting to these IEDs. And I'd just like to give people a little bit of insight here. When you were alerted that there was an IED, potential IED here, can you give people a little bit of insight into the action, the activities that you take here? The timing is of the essence, of course, here, but can you let people know how you respond and your team responds during the alert of an IED?
Yes. Well, let's say if there was another truck that had gotten blown up, within seconds, we're already taking off after where the truck is. And that during that time, in this short amount of seconds, we're checking all of our gear, doing a radio check, ammo check, everything. And then once we are a good distance away from the blown up truck, that's when we immediately go outside. I hang outside the back of the truck and I sweep in a distance a few feet from the step just to make sure that it's not the truck that's setting off the metal detector. And then we go in, sweep in a staggered formation and try to knock out every single IED that possibly is out there.
And you talk about the idea of that you're going about 100 meters out from the truck yourself here in order to make sure if you do find an IED, that the troops behind you have some protection to mitigate damage potentially as a result of that. Is that accurate?
It's very accurate. If I were to think that there's an IED present, then I would alert my sweep team. They would all drop to a knee and provide 360-degree security. And that's when I go down a dig. And we would start from a distance from the convoy, just in case if any of us were to get blown up or hurt, it's not going to risk damaging any of the trucks or possibly hurting or killing any of my Marines.
And we talked a little bit about the difference between Iraq and Afghanistan, where you were in Helmand Province, and the way that you describe it, it's far more desolate than the situation in Iraq here. And can you give people an idea of where you're walking? Where are you exploring? You talked about some dried riverbeds. Can you give folks an idea about the wadis and what's involved with that?
Absolutely. So there's things we call wadis, and they're dried up riverbeds, creeks, and there's certain sections of it that are drivable. And so in other parts, you just can't bring a bunch of trucks with a bunch of supplies and stuff, or they will fall over or risk of flipping the truck. So we would go, and that would give the enemy the chance to say, you know what, this is their only way in. Let's plant a bunch of IEDs in this area. And then once they get hit, they'll think that's the only one. And then they'll get hit again on the other side of the wadi. So what it is basically a trapped in area that gives us just one single way to go in, and that's where they plant the IEDs. And that's one of the main things that we go to sweep when we encounter them.
And so, and in your time in the service, how many IEDs have you and your team uncovered or discovered?
Around 100 IEDs.
100.
Around 100 stomach drops.
Oh, wow. We so often take for granted that we walk down the street. We don't expect the street to blow up underneath us. And that was one of the big impacts that I have learned from talking and working with Ryan on his project. And the idea that you're on such constant alert and such comprehensive awareness of your surroundings and your situational awareness is just incredible to me. So I just appreciate, I have such a deep appreciation for you for that. I'd like to talk about the IED that actually ended up sending you home.
Okay.
Let's go into the day here. You weren't actually supposed to be on duty the day that you went out during that period of time. Can we talk about what happened that day?
Correct. Before I went on this mission, the mission prior to that, I was on a convoy and my truck had gotten struck by an IED, and we had gotten back to the camp, and I was my first sergeant had said he needed to talk to me, and when he said that, I thought he was just going to see if I was okay from the explosion, which I was. It had rattled us up a bit, but it wasn't that bad where I broke any bones or anything. And he said, no, go back to work. I'll talk to you afterwards. Well, shortly after, I was informed to go see the wizard. Now, the wizard is what we call, it's basically like the priest. And if they say go see the wizard, that means someone very close to you had passed away. And so I went to find out that it was my Uncle Ted, and it shattered me up. And I was very close to him, and the fact that I couldn't go to his funeral and I had to be out there, it got me really messed up. And so I had to go see a doctor, and they said I didn't have to go to work and that I could miss the next mission. And I had rested for a few days, and there was something that was bottling up inside of me that if anything were to happen to any of my Marines on that mission, I would never forgive myself. So I told my sergeant I need to go. And that mission was whenever I got blown up very bad, and it took me out of the fight.
Oh, we're going to talk about this just in one moment, but just the idea that you would feel guilty after hearing such traumatic news, and for the sake of this discussion, for clarity and transparency, your uncle committed suicide as a result. He took his own life. And
Yes.
remember that the purpose of this call today is to help, hopefully, reach veterans who are considering something like this and offering them another alternative perspective, an alternative approach to consider here. And so that is the reason behind going into such just graphic detail of some of these issues here. So Ryan, talk about the actual event with the truck and what happened.
We were driving. I was a passenger in a 7-ton truck that looks like an 18-wheeler that's very much armored up all over. And we ran right over an IED that was directly under me. And so it briefly knocked me out. And whenever I came to, I felt that my mouth and my ears, my eyes, nose, everything was just filled with sand. So, and there's sand all over, so you couldn't really see. It was just very cloudy. And I started taking out all the sand out of my mouth and my eyes. And I was in the hole since it blew up under me. So I was sideways. And I looked up at my driver and I asked if he was okay. And he said, yeah. And then, so I kind of went back down, shaking it off because it was a very, very hard blow. And I had pulled a little bit of shrapnel out of my left leg, and there was my right leg. And once I yanked it from a very stuck, uncomfortable spot, I knew it was broken. And we tried calling over to get the security vehicle to pick us up, but we were getting ambushed. And so it took quite some time to get picked up. And once I got to the security truck eventually, I asked the doc to cut off my boot, and because it was in so much pain. And once they cut it off, it looked like a softball was stuffed under the skin of my foot and everything was crushed. And that's when I knew I was out of the fight.
So you're heading home. It's 2012, and you're heading back home. And let's just cut to the chase. Life was rough for you, and you had some hard times as a result of that. Can you give folks a little bit of the insight here for, between 2012 and 2016, what life was like for you?
Well, I was depressed for a while because of the pain and just thinking that I was never going to be able to do anything. So I became a very bad alcoholic, and I didn't expect that I was going to be able to do anything. And I accepted to go on a Wounded Warrior event to climb the Andes Mountains, and I did that, and I felt on top of the world. And then, but my leg was too crushed up. And it got back to the point to where now the pain is taking over. Now I'm angry all the time, and I'm just vicious. And when it got to the point to where I was just miserable 24/7, I finally decided to get my leg amputated. And
you decided you had an interesting date that you chose to get your leg amputated. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the funny thing is I knew I was going to get my leg amputated, but I had such bad anxiety about it, and I was freaking out. And when the anxiety stopped, was the doctor said that I could pick the day of my amputation, and I said Friday the 13th, because I figured there's no other way to get your leg cut off than Friday the 13th. Whack.
Did he come out in a hockey mask and a machete? How did this work out exactly? I'm trying to figure this out.
Oh, he was cracking up, and he said I was crazy. And then I said I wanted to keep my leg because I wanted to copper it and make it into a lamp like on A Christmas Story. And he said no.
Yeah, I love it. So you've always been somebody who is a high achiever. You were an athlete in school early in the days here. You don't take no for an answer. Even with the leg crushed as it is, you attempted to climb the Andes Mountains, and you did an amazing job over there with that feat. And then 2016, you were involved with a situation with a very dear friend of yours, Jake Pettit. Can we go that? We're talking about October 2nd, 2016.
Well, Jake Pettit, my friend, we deployed together in Afghanistan, and he had been having some troubled times. I had just seen him for July 4th. And then we had talked on FaceTime, and he really wanted me to go back over there. So I said I would. And I said, hey, well, my stay alive day, the day that I got blown up, is October 3rd, and his birthday is October 4th. So I said, hey, well, let's celebrate those days together. Well, I get there, and October 2nd, something had triggered him. And now I don't remember a small little portion of what happened, but then we were upstairs in his bathroom, and he had put a gun to his head and said he would do it. Well, right away I reacted, and I was able to take the gun and take him down and get rid of the gun. And then I started yelling at him about the situation, not in a bad way, but just trying to say, that's dumb, and I got your back, and You have a lot of people that love you type. And we talked for a little bit, and we were on the bed, and he said, "Why did this have to happen to us, Garza?" And I said, "That's the cards we've been dealt. We're going to have to just suck it up and, go with it." And then he stood up, opened the drawer, and turned around, and he had a second gun that I didn't know about, and that was it. And he was gone.
All right. So obviously, after years of having been back home, going through the challenges that you did as a result of your injury, and now with the death that you witnessed of your dear friend Jake Pettit, you had a realization. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, for the first couple of years, I was blaming myself, and I felt the guilt, and I hated myself, and I didn't want to live. And I just wish I had some sort of clarity, because I could never ask him anything. He's gone. And I wish I knew if there was something different I could do. And I was drinking at the very minimum a half gallon of vodka a day and just trying to get it out. And one night I hadn't slept for about 4 days, and it was like he came to me, and I was talking to him for a little bit. I was saying I'm sorry and this and that, and he just had this big smile, and he was like, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And then I remember he said he had to go, and I said, "No, no, wait." And I talked for another minute, gave him a hug, and then he said he had to go. And even though I still had the guilt and pain and all that, that was my moment where I was like, "Okay, well, I'm okay." Like, that's what I needed to move forward. And then that's when I started kind of trying to look the best way to get help.
Right. And so let's talk about the realization that you had the Thanksgiving, your Thanksgiving story,
Mhm.
that shifted things from you as far as what you could do. And the idea here that you had communicated to me is the idea because you had thought about taking your own life as well during this period. Right.
Yes, it was very difficult. And since it was in October, the very next month, obviously, is Thanksgiving. And I was in such a dark spot. I had been in a dark place before, but nothing like this. I really wanted to be over. I thought that was my last straw. And I didn't want to spend any time with anybody on Thanksgiving because I knew they'd feel bad for me, or, just be too nice to me. And I didn't want them, I didn't want to ruin anybody's Thanksgiving. So I decided to go alone, and I spent it at Golden Corral, the buffet. And I went in there, and I was really dark and sad and all that. And then I looked up, and I just started kind of looking around, and I saw these families that are just smiling and happy, and everything was just good. And it gave me a real peace of mind to see that. And then shortly after, is whenever I had seen a homeless man that was looking in a very dark place and alone and everything. And so that's whenever I had decided the next Thanksgiving to make plates for the homeless. So it started with me just getting one turkey, and I was going to just make some plates. And then I got so excited about helping and to doing that, then I was like, well, I'll get a turkey and a ham. And then I got more and more excited, and I felt more of my pain in my body just releasing, and all these bad things in my life, all these disturbed earth that was just driving me crazy. And it all started going away. So I went from a turkey to two turkeys, two hams, all these sides, dessert, everything. And I made over 100 plates all scattered in my apartment. And my body's all broken up, so I was having some pain, but it was the best pain in the world. I got to bend over, grabbing my back, and just had the biggest smile on my face, putting the turkey and all of it together. And once I finally boxed it all up and took it out, just the feeling of seeing them, like at first they're expecting someone to either spit on them or look bad or talk trash, and they see someone handing over a plate for Thanksgiving, and they just light up. And helping all these people that felt alone, that they had nothing left, that they wanted to give up, and giving something back, it took away a big weight off my shoulders, and it changed something in me.
Ryan, the project that you're working on right now is to help break the cycle of veteran suicide, and your commitment to your fellow vets is incredible, and you've put yourself through a whole lot in order to get there. This story of moving from guilt to forgiveness, this idea that giving back has helped you has kept you from giving up is inspirational to me. And I know a lot of people are, it's touched a lot of hearts today. Your objective is to have one less loss a day. Instead of 22, let's make it 21. If everybody can reach one person, then we can make a big impact here for folks and, deal with one person at a time. So, Ryan, I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for your story. I want to thank you for putting your heart and soul into this project here and for your new mission to help your fellow vets. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for having me. This really means a lot to me.
What a great story. I've been, we've had some comments coming on the chat, and wow, that's powerful. Antonio, thanks for putting this together. Let's open it up for questions. Paul, do you have a question?
No,
by the way, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
I'm saying no, not. I put my comment in the chat. It's such a powerful story, Ryan. I just can't explain the emotions that I've felt listening to the story, and every admiration too. And we think we have problems, and that puts life into perspective. And wow, very powerful, inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have a question from Patricia Fripp and then Hedy Kaba.
Well, Ryan, magnificent story, and thank you for your contribution to others. Over the years, I've done quite a lot of work with the Wounded Warrior Project, helping them with their presentations. And many of the stories that I heard, these wonderful young men with lost limbs, and then they would say to me, and I would do it all again. Now, for mere mortals like me, we cannot imagine that anyone would say that when they were left broken, even though they are making a contribution. Can you talk to that, please?
I never really understood it either until I went overseas, because the thought of going overseas and being miserable in the heat and all that stuff was like kind of out of it to me. But once I got out there and I was with my brothers and sisters, and we had that camaraderie, we had those times that were the worst of all times. We hated our lives. We hated everything that was going on. There were times where we were sad, depressed, all these terrible things. But then we remember all those funny times, all those great times, and all the times that kept us together and strong. So we had way more of a purpose. We had a unit, and we had something so fantastic that I'd never had before. So when we go home, and yeah, it seems peaceful and great and all that, but to us, we would just love to do that, not only to be together to fight for our country, but just to do it for everybody counting on us, like all of you and just everybody that counts on us and stuff. It gives us the biggest honor to be able to fight for them. And so just even today, like I said, my back was hurting just making little plates and stuff. But if they said that I could go back over there, there would not be hesitant. I would do it in a heartbeat, put all the gear on. I would do my job the best that I possibly could anytime they needed me.
Is it possible, do you think, to find that camaraderie here? I know Antonio and your pals like Tim are here supporting you. Can you find that feeling of camaraderie here?
Honestly, until recently, this was the first actual big time camaraderie that I've had with Antonio, Tommy Rodriguez, Tim Lane, Johnny Fulmer, and Raul. Us together is more than a team. It's the exact way I felt when we were with my platoon and with my sweet team. We are stronger than anything in the world. There's nothing that could break us up. Anytime that I'm hurting, I know I could go to them. Anytime they're hurting, they know they can come to me, and we all have a dream. And that dream is, like Tim says, we're going to keep hope alive. And together we could do it. So we have that new camaraderie. And they didn't just take a few veterans. We have some pro athletes, some veterans, and we just have people with great big hearts that want to help people.
Thank you. And congrats,
Thank you.
Antonio, for spearheading this.
Thank you, Patricia.
All right, we have a
Absolutely.
question. We have a question from Hetty, and then Bill Buchanan.
Ryan, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your stories, and I really feel for your contributions. Two things. One is my middle son, he's working on his PhD at UC Berkeley in electrical engineering, and his passion is to connect the prosthetics with the brain. And that's what his thesis is on. And he has been so passionate about it, basically making the software and the devices that would control the limb from the brain. So people who lose limbs can get the better kind of action that they would like. And I really hope that he can succeed. And he's working with Apple on that program as well. Apple is funding it. So I'm really hopeful. So that was FYI, that there are people out there who really want to help out people who have some difficulties or deficiencies. And that makes me feel very good. But my question is, do you think that the government, and I don't want to get political or side with anyone, but do you think that our government is supporting the veterans who come back? Because most of them come back with some kind of a problem or another. And I don't want to get into the detail, better than anybody else. But do you think that our government is giving you guys the support that you need and deserve, and or do you think that the government is falling short on that?
I do think the government's falling short in a lot of ways, but it also depends on what part of the country you are and what VA you have. And there's so many things that go with it. So originally I'm from San Antonio. So going to that VA, those were the worst experiences of my life. They gave me the runaround a lot. I had to wait 4 hours just for them to push me away. And I was going mental just dealing with the VA. But then here I come to Colorado Springs and I get seen like that, like fast, and I could get things done. So a lot of people, it's such a struggle to go through the VA. They just say it's not worth it and they don't get the help that they need. So what I think that they should do is don't have it to where, oh, this VA is better, or how is this VA over there? They need to all get their stuff together and realize a way that we could get every single VA to help all these veterans, because that's a million times in San Antonio, I wouldn't go through certain appointments because I just kept getting the runaround. So, here I'm taking I'm getting good care. They're taking care of my mental health, my physical health, and everything else that I need.
Is there something that we as civilians can and should do to help that process? What do you think? What is the message that you want to give to us that we can do, reaching out to our congressmen? What is it that you would like us to do?
Ryan, can I jump in on this?
The best thing, yes.
So, Hetty, this talk is part of a series of talks. And one of the talks here are things that we can do to help folks to deal with these situations while they're in service. Part of the problems that we've discovered during the course of this talks are actually defective manufacturing defects in some of the vehicles that are being out there with folks like Ryan on board here that are known and widely known to be defective. Locks on doors that don't lock, simple things that you would think would be inexcusable to be able to put on a battlefield. And Ryan and folks like Ryan are regularly having to accommodate and improvise just to be safe. So that's a series of other talks that we would probably get into at a later point.
Okay, I understand.
But there are things that we can be doing, and we'll be talking about some of those things in future discussions.
Thanks.
One of the things I wanted to do is that there was a story that Bill Buchanan, I think, will really appreciate, about a very special guest that you had. So Ryan's team was so effective; it was widely regarded as the best and sweep team in Afghanistan, and you had a very special guest, Ryan, for Bill's enjoyment. Could you perhaps share about the special guest that you had to join you?
Yes, and I'm not sure on the actual name. I was trying to get it. One of my buddies gave it to me, and he said it was Garza, I believe, but it was the gunner. And he was the oldest gunner in the entire Marine Corps. And the gunner is an infantry machine gunner, and as a chief warrant officer. So he wanted to join our sweep team. And, and we don't get IEDs every single mission. So him being on this mission and knowing about us, I was really hoping that we were going to get some. And fortunately, we saw some disturbed earth, like I was explaining, along with another rock off to the side that had red paint on it. And we were able to get out, show him how fast we move. He went out there with us, watched us as we looked for it. I dug it up. Then we saw the secondary. We got to go on the opposite side of it while EOD came, and EOD is the people who deal with all the bombs and explosions and stuff. And so we got to be right there whenever they blew that up. And it was just an amazing experience to have someone of that high rank to be with us and experience what we experience every mission.
I thought, Bill, you might like to comment on that.
Ryan, I'm very impressed with your approach to your, the injury, the wound, and all that sort of thing. And it reminds me quite a bit of Captain Burke, and that is that you have the warrior ethic and the can-do spirit. And you're probably thinking, like a lot of us Marines, if I don't do it, my DI is going to kick my ass.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we, and the thing, as you were talking, I was thinking, some years ago, I'm out here in California, obviously, but the Palo Alto Polytrauma Unit, have you heard of that? It's down in Palo Alto?
No, I haven't.
Okay, they specialize in TBI and, those related neurological wounds and that sort of thing. Anyway, a few years ago, I got in touch with one of the coordinators down there, and I said, we have a couple of bird dogs that would like to come down and visit the wounded, the wounded vets. She said, bring them on down. So we did, and they had a great time, out in the plaza, out in the patio, back and forth. These guys are real friendly, and as long as you're not a pheasant. And the superintendent came out, and she said, I have a gunnery sergeant here who's been with us for 6 months. He's never said anything. He lies there all day. Can you guys bring your youngest bird dog in and say hello? And guess what his last name was? Garza.
Yeah, nice.
So my wife takes our little Blazer, the bird dog, up to the bed, puts Gunny's arm on his head, and the superintendent broke down because he smiled, and she said, I have never seen him react before. This is a game changer.
Oh my God.
What I'm saying here is that there's a nexus between your successful rising up, from these debilitating injuries, and Captain Burke, who pretty much did the same thing. He said he was surrounded by up here, in the Bay Area, in a hospital, with people who were severely injured, and he was burned over 75% of his body. They almost lost him several times, and something happened, just like happened to you, and that is that he experienced an epiphany that was connected with a vision of the people who died in the plane, the other 13 people who crashed up there north of Sonoma Raceway, they were trying to get him to cross a bridge and come with them. And you know what that means, right? It's a one-way trip. He said, I'm not going. That's the name. So that was explained and eloquently in The Bridge Never Crossed, the book that he wrote. So there's a real similarity between how you guys pulled out of the nosedive, so to speak, and made, got on with it, continue to march. And that's fantastic. Now, let me ask you this question. Have you maintained contact with the Marines that you served with, and or like I'm in contact here regularly with the 1st Marine Division Association. I used to be with 3-5, which I suspect you were in Helmand, right? Was it 3-5?
I wasn't with 3-5, but I was in Helmand Province for all 4 tours.
Okay. And anyway, are you still in contact with Marines that you can talk to about this sort of thing?
Yes, actually, and something quite of a miracle happened recently. First off, what happened, I was talking about it earlier, the movie American Sniper, Chris Kyle's father ended up contacting me somehow and said he wanted to give me a Belgian Malinois dog to train and as a service dog. And so I couldn't believe it. And something had happened and I had lost another friend that reminded me of something in Afghanistan, and it was just a real big mess. So I called one of my Marine buddies and I was saying, I'm having a hard time, this and this, and I'm trying to look after the dog, but I'm just in such a dark place. And he goes, hey, you know what? I'll fly over to you right now. So he stopped what he was doing, and we keep in touch, and I would do the same for him. But still, when it actually happens, it's just the greatest feeling. And he dropped what he was doing, flew over to me. And I was like, I want to be the best for this dog and but, I can't even take care of myself. And he goes, well, you know what? He's like, I have a Belgian Malinois and I actually train them. And I was like, what? And he goes, what I could do is I'll just take the dog right now. And then I was about to be going to a brain treatment in Nevada. And he goes, I'll start training the dog. And so I gave him my keys to my truck and he left back to Utah and he's still training the dog. He set up a GoFundMe page to help with the training that he'll do to get it to be a service dog, because those are very expensive. But I do talk to my all of my Marine buddies, and I know they'd be there for me, and I've been there for them. But this was a pure example of that brotherhood that I had never experienced in my life. The fact that this guy could drop what he was doing and take off and fly right over to me. And then by some miracle of act of God, he happens to have a dog just like that and happens to train him. And I've never even met anybody who's had a dog like that, because I never. And what makes things even crazier is all these years I said, I'm not going to get a service dog just yet because I know I wasn't mentally ready. All these years went by. They were like, you could use it. You have these anxiety attacks. Oh, the dog could help. But I knew I wasn't mentally ready. Mm-hmm. And then one day I was in doing neurofeedback, a brain treatment in Nevada. And I was finally feeling good enough to where I went up to the doctor's brother and I said, you know what? I think I'm finally mentally ready to get a service dog. And the very next day is when they called me about giving me the dog. His name is Major. He outranks me, but I love him.
Where is he? Let's see him. Where is he?
He's still in training, actually, in Utah. Yeah, I just saw him. I was with him the other day. So I'm going back and forth for a few days every now and then. And then when it comes to near the end, I'll spend a good 1 to 2 weeks with them to get in the intense training.
That's outstanding. These dogs are the best medicine. Sometimes they drive you crazy, but they're always a challenge. And I'm glad to hear that. By the way, what in the content of your upcoming book, what elements of that are going to address this issue of veteran suicide?
The whole book, Bill, just to jump in, the whole book is a dedication to this. And within this book, there's a process that we're able to document that Ryan went through in pretty significant detail, but we've worked on a program to simplify it. And so Ryan's been involved. I want to give credit to Tim Lane here, who actually introduced me to Ryan and Timo Rodriguez. And Tim introduced Ryan, I believe, to the neural feedback program in Nevada. Is that correct, Ryan?
Yes, and not only that, Tim had he had set up what's it called? What's it called, Tim?
Fundraiser.
Fundraiser. Yeah, I'm sorry. He had set up a fundraiser and did something with Randy Couture, where they Randy Couture said he would get on a 30-minute call with them. He'd signed a couple things, and they did that or sweepstakes is the word I was thinking of. And so a bunch of people bought a bunch of raffles for all these, and they were able to come up with the money to help me get some brain treatment. So thank you very much, Tim. You're the man. I love you, brother.
Tony Woodall says in chat, he says, my daughter is a dog trainer and has a Belgian Malinois. I'm not saying that right. Malinois, thank you. And trains her to, I guess, to compete.
She competes in bike competitions. She's, she does bike training for police dogs, and her Belgian is a wonderful dog.
I've never even heard of these dogs, so it's amazing that they're getting so much feedback on this topic right now.
Yeah. One quick little introduction for that, just to go with Bill's question. This is such a wide issue. So many people are affected in so many different ways. So we did not come up with this approach as this is a one-step solution. It is simply Ryan telling his story, and we're trying to document Ryan's specific story, what worked for him. And the idea is a very personal tale from him, and we did our best to help people walk through at least one approach that worked for Ryan, to give them, the idea is that the one thing that's better than no ideas is one idea. And so the idea behind the book is to offer at least one approach to that, Bill.
Well, congratulations, Ryan. I've been involved with the publishing business in the past, not very successfly, but that's okay. Doing it was fun.
Bill, one other thing, Bill, is that Tim is involved, and Brian and Tommy are all involved with this group, Merging Vets and Players, MVP. And Tim wanted to extend an invitation to you to come speak to the group, by the way. So I want to make that connection as well. Okay. And then Tim and Tommy both have their hands up. I'd love to be able to acknowledge them if they've got questions. Have questions, Tim or Tommy? Tommy?
Yes, Antonio, you can hear me?
Yes.
First of all, Ryan, thank you again. I heard the story over and over, and it gets me choked up. So people don't know. I have a brother. 16 years ago, he was killed in the same situation that Ryan was in. And for 16 years, I didn't know the story. And then when I met with Ryan, he explained everything that I needed to know what happened to my brother. And I just think my brother had sent Ryan for me to connect with him so he could tell his story, because I lost him in 2005 in Ramadi, Iraq, to IED on a vehicle Humvee. And I asked a lot of his friends what happened. They couldn't share the story. Here comes Ryan weeks ago and answer 16 years what I needed to know. And so I lost a brother, but I gained another one. And every time I hear his story, it melts me. And I want to thank Tim and Antonio for letting me connect with him. And he's my brother for life. And I'm glad that he's here to serve us. And he's my hero, no matter what anybody says.
Thank you so much, Tommy. I love you, man. That means a lot.
Thank you, Tommy. And then we're going to do Tim Durkin and then Tim, if that's okay, Mr. President.
Yeah. Ryan, I don't have the words and I don't want to try to get them out, but you did mention that there's a GoFundMe page for training your dog. A Belgian Malinois is a remarkable dog. It looks like a smaller version of a German Shepherd, but it hits like an NFL linebacker when it's inspired. So if you could publish the GoFundMe page, I think a lot of us would like to help defray the cost of training such a magnificent friend for you. And also would like to know if you would publish your email address. I have some snow skiing friends of yours in Aspen, friends that would like to meet you in Aspen. They
Tom,
specialize in.
Sounds
I'll
great.
get you Ryan's information.
Good. They
And we'll
specialize
also-
in training and skiing with people that have lost limbs, and they're remarkable. Tom and Kathy Crum.
We'll get you contact for Ryan, and
Sounds
then we'll
amazing.
also publish the GoFundMe link for folks who. are
Thank
interested.
you.
Thank you
And
so
Tim.
much, Tim.
Tim Lane.
Semper Fi, brother.
Yes. Hey, Breakfast Clubbers.
Charlie 124, 4th Marine Division.
All right.
Simplify.
Go Marines.
I want to thank everyone. Antonio, thank you. Ryan Garza, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I just want to tell you how proud I am of you, brother, because you had to overcome so many obstacles, and for you to be on here and talking so confident and being yourself and keeping hope alive, man. I'm just so proud of you, and I love you, brother.
Thank you so much, Tim. I love you too. Always.
Betty, I think Betty had a comment that she wanted to make.
Yeah.
Betty,
Oh, thank you. I think, Ryan, words can't say how much I'm sure we all appreciate and what you've done. And thank you for your service and your continued service and dedication. I had heard the statistic about 22 vets committing suicide a day. If that's correct, I could not believe it. And having come from a healthcare background, I just wish that there's more we could do. And Hetty asked the question, what can we do as an individual? The government is one thing, and funding of VA hospitals and so forth. But, you know, I contribute to the Wounded Warrior Project, but is that enough? I mean, is that something that we as individuals can do in addition to your GoFundMe page, perhaps? But other than listening to people's stories, do people want to be asked? I know everybody is different.
Everybody is definitely different. One of the things that I've noticed that's helped more is making things a little more personal. So if so I could sit there if I was trying to help out some friends, and I could put in a donation, and then that's that. And it's cool and everything. But then whenever I actually get to interact with those people, or, and then see their joy, because it's like a two-way joy. It's whenever I go on Wounded Warrior events, and it's like, because it took a while for me to start trusting enough to where I could go on these events. Because when they would tell me, I was thinking they're crazy. And I was like, no, like I'm broken up. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to see you, all that. And once we get them out of that or that little discomfort zone or whatever, then that's whenever they could do more things. So whenever I finally gave in and went to one of these things, and I saw the people who are actually putting the money in and like setting everything up for us and doing all that, it gets so much more personal. And it's like, gosh, I want to do this again. So once we get to see or even if it was like people that had little videos of saying, hey, thank you for your service. We love to do this for you, or something where we could see the people. That's something personally that's helped me a lot, because I was a very angry person when after I had gotten hurt, and I had gotten asked quite a bit. And it wasn't until I went to climb the Andes Mountains that was my first one that I tried. And when I actually succeeded in it, and I was the first one on the very last summit, that's whenever it gave me hope. Because if I never would have went on that trip, my life could have been completely different, because I never would have thought I could accomplish anything anymore. And someone was like, just try it. If you can't do it, you can stop. It was hard. I'm from Texas, and I went through blizzards and all this stuff, so I wasn't used to it. But climbing through that snow, feeling that pain in my legs, and then making that final summit was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because it gave me hope. So people giving back, like what I'm saying, and getting these events for us and getting us outside that house, outside our comfort zone, the door's wide open and possibilities are endless.
Yeah, and to add to that, Betty, we are looking for opportunities for Ryan to tell his story to other groups. So if there are other groups or organizations, it does not matter here. We want to get Ryan's story in front of as many people as possible. So it could be a group of 5 or 5,000. It doesn't matter. If you have groups like that, we would love to be able to have the opportunity to tell Ryan's story to that group. And Susan, Ryan.
Ryan, thank you for your service. But what was so impressive to me is your sense of purpose and not just patriotism, but what I found so impactful is that you took that sense of purpose and saw a Thanksgiving meal and making a plate, and you took that, and that became your sense of purpose. So in one way, you've protected us, protected your people, protected the country, but then you fed people, and you fed more than their tummies, you fed their souls and spirits. So for me, I know from the research that a sense of purpose gives us all meaning, and that when we don't have it, we lose it. But I am so impressed with how you have turned that into something that benefited so many people. And I know you said you were really angry, but as I'm looking at you on the Zoom, you exude charm. That smile lights up a Zoom, and it will light up a room. And I hope to be able to support you in any way that I can. But I just wrote a note that you said something about donation is fine, interaction is better.
Yes, ma'am.
But you still
Thanks.
want the money for some of the things. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, even more than money, Susan, Susan, I mean, for folks, getting Ryan in front of a group of folks like this is a therapeutic element, and it's also helping him with his mission. So if you want to help him with his mission, if you want to contribute in some way, we'll talk to anybody. If there's a group of folks he wants to tell his story. So that would be an amazing contribution if folks
I will
have
do
ideas
my
for that.
best, Ryan. You can hold me to it.
Thank you. Yeah, the biggest thing is that I love speaking and telling my story is because there's always someone that needs to hear it at that one moment. So even if there's 50,000 people in a group, there could be one person that said, you know what, I'm taking my life tonight. That's it. This is the last of it. Y'all are going to see me. And then they hear that one person. And that one time is when we were about to make number 22 that day. And that one little situation dropped that number down to 21, and that person no longer killed themselves. So all of these people out there need to do is have someone that could relate to their pain. And I've experienced this with suicide, with the war, with fighting, and everything that comes in it. So it's telling these people that think that there's no way out is that there is a way out, and that you're not alone. And that's what gives me the biggest, greatest feeling ever.
Thank you, Susan. Bill, you had a follow-up?
Just a comment, as Ryan was talking about some of his outdoor experiences, the club knows that I'm the head geezer of the Timberline Geezers, which is a little ski group. We go out in the high country this time of year, or actually earlier than this. Anyway, I also belong to a organization called the Sovereign Order of St. John of Jerusalem. And we have, when I took over the military commandery, I said to the program director, I said, I want us to support military veterans, individuals and organizations, and get them out in the out of doors. And so one year, one of my ski buds and I were on the lift at Squaw, and we looked down, and here came this skier, and obviously he'd lost a limb, a leg, and he was ripping down one of the Black Diamond slopes, and he went airborne. I said, "Did you see that, Tom?" He said, "Yeah, but I didn't believe it." Tom's a Marine too, you know. So we got back down to the resort, you know, to get a cup of coffee or something. Here's a sign that said something, I forget the exact name of the organization, Tahoe Veterans or something like that. That was one of the organizations we had supported. And this guy was one of them. He's probably a Marine because he's nuts, right? But what I'm saying is, did you feel a real strong infusion of energy by being out in the out of doors? Was that effective for your rehabilitation?
It was. And well, one of the first ones is the people that I had climbed for before I gotten the amputation, they asked me to climb again after my amputation. And they said 5 months after. And I said, that's absolutely crazy. And that was another one of those moments where they were like, well, you could stop at any time. And I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. So 5 months after my amputation, I climbed a 14,141 foot mountain. And that was another point of my life to where I was just like, okay, before I was like, I don't think I could do anything. I have a crushed leg. After, I don't think I could do anything. I have no leg. And then when I did that, I was like, okay, now I could do stuff. Now, the best feeling I had gotten beyond anything was when I did my first scuba dive. I have a swimming leg that has a button by the ankle, and I push it and the foot goes down and I could put my fin on and go. Well, I was in Hawaii and I went off the boat and I went to swim and I could feel all the way down to my toes. I could not believe it. I looked back and I was confused, and my leg that was not there, I was able to feel all the way down to my toes. So I ended up getting a picture by a big turtle. I got a picture holding a little octopus on my elbow. It was great. And I felt alive again. So with that climb, showed me I could do stuff again. And then with that scuba diving, it's like my leg is still there. It's still, nothing can hold me back. I have a guardian angel leg right there that's putting those steps in that I need to make it to the summit.
That's outstanding.
Hey, Richard Chen had a comment he'd like to make.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ryan, for your talk. It's very inspiring, and I think you're doing great stuff with the service and everything there. The one thing I wanted to add to that is in terms of, they've done a lot of work with terms depression and anxiety, and actually there are whenever there's some sort of trauma, the body actually changes in terms of how the body works, and you can actually get depression, as we know from mind-wise, but actually you can do treatment-wise using vitamins. And so that's kind of interesting work, because a lot of people don't aware in terms of how the mood is affected by what happens to your mind. But this is sort of saying that your body changes, and that by changing the body with the vitamins, it actually improves your mood, anxiety. So there's a lot of work in terms of using vitamins to treat depression, anxiety wise. And so that's something I thought that it would be in terms of what you're doing. There is treatment. I mean, besides talk therapy, cognitive therapy, that there are vitamins that can make people feel better as well too and stuff. So
thank you very much for adding that. Yeah, anxiety was definitely my worst thing I was dealing with. It's nowhere near as bad as it used to be, but that was one of the things that I never even really thought existed. I thought anxiety was a way my mom would tell me not to go jump off the roof into a pool or something. and then whenever I get out and I'm like, oh, I really experience anxiety, and all my muscles tensing up and then getting sick from it and all that. It took so many years of trying to figure out that the most destructive, most deadly IED in the entire world is your mind. And then that anxiety is what just ripped me to pieces. And now I'm finding a way out of that. And with with Tim Lane and the focus and follow through, that's helped me. And then with Tommy, working with Tommy with Knockout Self-Doubt, us together has really done so much for my anxiety and depression and all that. It's like our mental vitamins adds fuel. So anything else that could add to that happiness, it's all good. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much.
Hey, Ryan, I also promise you to say hello to Sydney Mobell, our World War II veteran. Sydney, say hello to Ryan. You're muted. You're muted. Uh-oh, your throat. You're muted. Or you can just wave if you can't talk.
I can't see it. How you doing? It's a very honor to meet you, Sydney. Thank you for everything you do. I know World War II was definitely a wild ride as well. So I'm very glad to see that you're alive and here today. And thank you so much for your love and support.
He's 95.
Yep.
You're muted.
He'll
You're
make
muted,
it to 140.
Sid. You're muted, Sid. Your phone is okay. No problem. All right. Well, we'll connect you in person. We'll make sure we get a in-person connection with you guys here. No problem.
Hey,
so, folks,
Ryan,
it is nine. It's nine. It's a little bit past. It's almost 9:10. You guys. So, folks, who need to leave here, please feel free to leave. Tim, I think you had maybe one last comment.
Well, yeah. I was very struck by something Ryan just said. He said the most powerful IED in the world is your mind. And rather than call it improvise, I think if you change the letter to internal explosive device, I think it's something that you might be able to use. IED by another name. My wife.
It's already in the book. It's in the book. It's in
all
the book.
right. My wife is a brain rehab person. She deals with TBIs every single day, 12 hours a day, and it's wonderful to see the work that you're doing and the progress that you're making. Hang in there, brother.
Thank you so much.
Of this group here, the concept here is Brian is an expert in pattern recognition, finding IEDs external.
Yeah.
But the brain is its own IED, and to find patterns internally that are leading you potentially down the road of ending your life is what we're talking about. And so we're making that whole shift in the book. Yeah. Yeah.
Disturbed. Is it disturbed?
Disturbed Earth. Disturbed Earth.
Disturbed Earth.
Disturbed
Brilliant.
Earth.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you so much. Thank you, Ryan. And by the way, Ryan jumped in, you guys, because we had a cancellation with one of the speakers. So not only is he a hero for real, but he's also a hero for the day for jumping in and saving our day here today. So thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. It was great to have it. Thank you all so much. It's been great. Thank you so much.
We'll have to have you come back, Ryan. That, and I'm looking forward to reading the book.
Absolutely. And if y'all want to see one of my videos of climbing, it's Ryan Garza, What's Your Everest? And it's on YouTube.
All right. You guys got that? All right. Hey, thanks again, everybody. I'm going to end the recording here. And next week, by the way, we have Peter Winkler. He's going to be sharing about his hikes in the Sierra Nevadas. All right. Bye, everybody. I'll keep the room open for a few minutes.
Bye. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.